We have Frank. We have the Wolfman. We have Dracula. But we don't have the Mummy. We will soon.
Alright guys, so this is how I went ahead and built our mummy prop. Normally what I'll do is when I build a prop, I'll use 2x2 wood. And what I'll do is I'll cut those 2x2 pieces of wood 5 feet long. And that basically makes up the entire frame. And I'll use other pieces of wood to kind of like break up those 5-foot sections into like a waist and shoulders and things like that. In this case, I'm going to be using 2x4s. One of the reasons why is because I got a really good deal on them and they were really cheap. The other reason is because since this mummy prop is not going to be concealed with clothing like our other props, I wanted to try to give it a little bit more thickness. So these two pieces here are cut into 3-foot sections. Now, I am going to build this prop a little bit differently than I normally do. Again, because we're not going to have this prop concealed with clothing, I need to kind of make this prop look more human and give it a more human look instead of like a boxy look. So this is going to have a V-taper shape, the upper body will, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But the first step is I took these two 2x4s and cut them into 3-foot sections. So the second step I did was I made feet. I basically just used my own foot as a guide. So I put my foot on a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, traced it with a pencil, and then using a jigsaw I cut it out. Now, I did make, you'll see here, I have 2 sets of feet, 2 rights, 2 lefts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach one of the sets onto the legs that I just showed you. And then as I'm corpsing this, I am going to have to wrap plastic around those first sets of feet to get it to stick on. Then once I'm done all the corpsing, I'm going to add to it on the bottom of the first set here, the second set. And what that's going to do is that's going to give it a clean base. In this step here, I'm starting to create the lower body. You'll notice here that I attached the feet to the legs, and there's an arrow pointing to a board on the top of those legs. That's basically going to be what I'll call the waist. That board is a 2x4, and it measures 12 inches long. Now, right below that board, you'll notice that there's a smaller board where the yellow arrow is pointing to. That is a 2x2 piece of wood. You really could use any kind of wood, and that is cut at 9 inches. I basically used that piece of wood there to provide a little bit more stability for the lower body. When I didn't have that there, the lower body was very wobbly. Now, let's get into the upper body. You'll notice here, this is where the V-taper shape comes into play. The top board where the red arrow is pointing to is a 2x4 piece of wood cut at 15 inches. The 2 boards that make up the sides of the upper body, highlighted with the green bracket, are again 2x4s, but these are cut at 22 inches. Now, I attached the sides to the top board loosely, with 1 screw on each side. I did this because to get the V-taper shape, I needed to be able to bend the sides inward and be able to attach them to the ends of the board I have highlighted with the yellow arrow. This board is cut at 12 inches long, which is the exact same measurement as the waist from the previous step. Once I had the desired V-taper shape, I went back and added more screws to keep it in place. The last thing I did was I connected this upper body to the lower body using 2 screws. Now let's talk about the arms. When I make a taller prop, a prop over 6 feet tall, I have a standard measurement I use for the upper arms and the forearms. I'll make the upper arms 16.5 inches and the forearms 12 inches. At the end of the forearm, I will attach hands as well. I normally use groundbreaking hands that you can buy at Spirit Halloween for $10 a pair. You could also use gloves as well. On this prop, after I attached the 2 arm pieces together, I added pool noodles around the forearm and the upper arm to give it a little bit of thickness. The arms are an area where you kind of have to play around with the measurements based on the size of your prop. Now, do not attach these yet to the upper body. In the next step, we're going to get into wrapping the upper body in the plastic drop cloth for corpsing. If you add the arms on, it makes this step more difficult. You will want to corpse the arms separately, and then when the upper body is done, attach them to it. So you did hear me just mention that we are going to corpse this mummy prop. You could use gauze. I did not do any research on how much that would actually cost and how much gauze you're going to need. So I decided to do the corpsing instead. You'll notice here this picture is the drop cloth that I use. I get this at Lowe's. I buy the extra heavy version, and it's 2 millimeters thick, and it's 9 by 12. This costs $2.98 for a bag of this. However, if you buy more than 3 bags, they give you a 30-cent discount per bag, so it comes down to $2.68. And that's pretty cheap, and you can go pretty far with just 1 bag. Like I said, I did not do any research into how much the gauze would cost. I would assume it would be pretty expensive. Plus, I wanted to use this drop cloth and do a corpsing technique on the mummy because I think the texture that it's going to give us is going to be absolutely amazing. Alright, so now we're going to get into the fun part, the corpsing. Now, I'm not going to shoot all of the corpsing that I do on this mummy because I've done so many videos on corpsing in the past. If you're interested in how you actually do it or want to see how it's done, you can check out another one of our videos. We did one on the Jeepers Creepers wings, and we also did one last year on Vanessa and I did some skeletons. So the first thing that we're going to do with this upper body is I'm going to wrap plastic around the sides of the upper body. And the reason why I'm doing this is because once you put the arms on, it's hard to get to that area. So I'm going to do that first. Now, I'm not going to do any of the heat gun yet. I'm just wrapping that up. After I finished wrapping the sides of the upper body with the plastic drop cloth, I did have some styrofoam lying around that we got from a package, and I did cut out a chest plate, and I laid it right on the front of the upper body. You can see here I put 2 arrows there to show where I put it down. I thought it would add a little bit of thickness to the upper body, however, it did not. So you don't have to do that step if you don't want to. Once I had the chest plate on the upper body there, I did start wrapping the drop cloth around the upper body. Once that was done, I attached the arms to the upper body. Now, one thing you're going to want to do is, once you attach the arms back to the upper body, you're going to want to start to corpse the shoulder area, and you'll see that here in the video. Just start wrapping the upper body in the upper shoulder area, the shoulder joints there, with the plastic drop cloth, and then what you'll do is you'll run the heat gun over it to start to get the texture. For the lower body, I like to use pool noodles to build up the thickness of the thighs and the leg area. As you can see here, I used a lot of pool noodles to make the prop have thighs, and also if you look at the back of it, I also have made it so it looks like he has calves. Again, since this is not going to be covered with clothing, we really have to try to do a good job in getting the legs as close to a human leg as possible. This can be difficult, but once you have the legs to the size that you want, all you're going to want to do is, just like you did with the upper body, is to start to wrap the legs and feet with the drop cloth, and then just start doing your corpsing technique. And again, you can just do as much texture and as much thickness as you want. It's completely up to you. When all your corpsing is done, then you can go ahead and, like I mentioned in the feet part, you can add the second set of feet to the bottom to give it a clean base. I just use screws to attach it to the bottom of the mummy. So here's a look at the mummy before we start painting it. And I'm actually really happy with the way this came out. I think the drop cloth on here, the corpsing technique, it looks amazing. I mean, you just cannot beat the kind of texture that you can get when you do the corpsing technique. I did let some of the plastic kind of hang down here on the forearms to make it look like his bandages are coming unwrapped. I thought that was kind of a cool touch. You can do as much of that as you want. It's completely up to you. But again, here, I mean, you just cannot beat the texture that you get with the corpsing technique. And when we start to paint this thing, all of that's really going to come out even more. Like I said, I'm really happy with the way that this came out, and I can't wait to see what it looks like when we start painting.
So we got the mask in, as you can see, and this is the Kharis mask from the movie The Mummy, which is a Hammer production. This is not the Boris Karloff mask from the original Mummy movie from Universal Pictures. This is a great lesson for people like myself who are impatient. As you can see, the mask looks incredible, and I have already painted the body, which I did film. However, the paint job is too light for the mask. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to repaint this. And as you can see here, the mask is pretty much like this, like a brownish, it might be hard to see on the camera, but it's almost like a brownish purpley color, which I have an exact paint that will match this, and I'm going to have to just go over this whole body. One thing I noticed is that my mummy is a little bit on the thin side. So what I think I'm going to do is, I think I am going to try to beef him up a little bit with some of this, I got some of this foam here from a package that we got. And I think I might just kind of layer that onto the body with some tape and probably do a little bit of recorpsing. Just going to try to thicken them up a little bit. Not going to do anything to the arms, going to leave those as is. Probably just going to try to thicken up the upper body, a little bit of the legs, and maybe a little bit of the back. So the one good thing about corpsing is that even if you do run into a situation like I just ran into where I want to thicken it up a little bit, all you have to do is kind of just put on some foam or whatever to kind of thicken it up, and then rewrap the plastic, and then we just start, recorpsing it to what we originally had. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's one good thing about the corpsing is we can kind of just get it to match up with what we previously had. Okay, so I did go back through, and I had about 2 bags of plastic left, and I did go back through and I did redo the mummy here, trying to make him a little bit thicker. It's not spectacular, but it does look better. I had some foam that I showed you, and I just kind of added it all over the front here, the chest, and down, and into the thighs. As you can see, I really didn't do anything with the lower legs, so I think it's pretty good. He is not super thick, but I think it's better than it was. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this dry for a little bit, let it kind of settle, and then I'm going to start to paint it. So I painted the mummy the brownish purple color. And then what I did was after that dried, I dry brushed on what I'm going to call like a khaki or a tan color, and that's what's on the bottom of the mask here, you can see, and it kind of matches up pretty well with it, actually. So I'm pretty happy with the way that it matched up, but this looks pretty good. Like I said, the texture on this stuff, is absolutely incredible, especially when you do the dry brushing on it. Just makes everything really pop out. So I think I got the color right. It's not perfect, of course, but I think it's pretty close. These studios, like Trick or Treat Studios, they do take liberties with the mask. I know in the movie, which by the way is a great movie if you haven't seen it, Kharis the Mummy, Christopher Lee's character, falls into a swamp, and that's why he gets like this dirty brown color, because he falls into the swamp. So I don't really know why they went with like a purple, but like I said, they do take liberties with the color, but I think it looks pretty good. We'll put the mask on here real quick and let you see what that looks like too.
So here's a look at the mummy with the mask on, and I brought it out into the sun so you guys could see it. And overall, I think this thing came out really nice. I'm really happy with the way it came out. I think I got the color pretty close to the mask, and like I said, I think overall it looks great. I'm very happy with the texture of the wrappings of the corpsing. I think it looks amazing. I also think the mask looks absolutely amazing. it's just a great mask, another great mask by Trick or Treat Studios. But anyway, I just want to end the video here. I want to thank you guys a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions on how I did this, please feel free to ask me, and I'll try to help out as best I can. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and please stay tuned. We are going to have a few other videos coming down the road here. But again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and take care. Bye.